Welcome to the Saturday Night Live Afterparty. This week, we'll be discussing Season 47, Episode 10 of SNL with host Ariana Debose and musical guest Bleachers. I'm Catherine Coleman, and I am joined this week by the irreplaceable Steve Finn. If you'd like to connect with either of us, you can do so at snlpodcast.com. All right, here we go. Welcome back, everybody. Happy 2022. SNL came back against all odds with a studio audience. I was happy to see it, and I'm happy to see you, Steve. How you doing?
I'm doing well. And you're right. It's great to see SNL looking like SNL.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great to see you. I know you had a good break because we've had some fun leisure time together.
We have, and I say it's nice to see you. And what I mean by that is it's nice to see you, actual you, and not your like Oculus avatar you.
Yeah, using your oculars as opposed to your
Yes.
Oculus. Yeah, for sure. It's good to see you in the
Steve
flesh outside the metaverse.
Yeah, Steve and I had a great time over the holidays playing some mini golf in the metaverse. He's a little better at it than me, maybe.
You're getting there.
I don't know that we've ever played a full round one-on-one. I feel like one of us always comes in part of the way through another round.
Right. But
we should do a head-to-head challenge.
Yeah, we should and see who comes out victor. Golf is fun. I've had fun with you playing ping pong as well.
Oh yeah, we did do ping pong.
Yeah, connectivity issues aside, like I was laughing my ass off because I'd say one thing and then I'd get your answer to it like a minute and a half later. Like it was the biggest delay I've ever had in a chat. It was hilarious.
It was crazy. I was at my parents' house and they have the worst internet. And I could tell by your reactions that it was just so delayed. Like you were like, is the Wi-Fi really bad? And then 5 minutes later, you heard me say yes.
Yep, not for lack of trying. You tried like 5 different rooms to get the best Wi-Fi.
I went from the top floor all the way to the basement. I tried every situation.
Yeah, man. See, VR is a fun, active experience. So yeah, that was fun to play with you over the break.
It was very fun. One day we're gonna do a whole podcast in VR.
I think we should.
That's gonna be real fun.
For sure. Yeah. We could actually have like a live audience then.
Oh yeah, we could.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
For sure. We'll get on that.
When we schedule our head-to-head matchup, we can invite patrons to watch us play mini golf in virtual reality. They'll love it.
We'll make an event of it. Good idea.
All right. Well, I'm sure everyone's heard enough of that nonsense. Let's talk about SNL. Let's talk about the news of the after the December show, we found out that a few people were leaving. So Anna Dresden has left to work on a show. Jasmine Pierce left to move to LA. I'm not sure what projects she might have lined up. And Paul Briganti, one of the film unit directors, also left. Those are 3 very talented people that I was super sad to see go.
Yeah, it is sad. But, Catherine, all the input and all the great things they've done with the show, none of that's going anywhere. That's in the vault, and we can enjoy it anytime we like. And I'm pretty sure we're all used to SNL being just a revolving door by nature. And it's just part of the breathing process of the show.
Yeah, and I mean, we saw in this episode sort of, obviously we'll get to this, but the Urkel sketch, which is sort of a spiritual successor to Paul Briganti's Grouch sketch. So we see that influence even after he's gone. And then Allison Gates and Streeter Siddell were promoted to co-head writers. And we know Allison Gates was a big collaborator with Anna Dresden. So, that voice is very much still represented in the head writer office. So, everything's good. Everything's chill. But, we got to talk about the news. So that's the news. Are we ready to talk about this episode?
Let's do it. It's going to be fun.
Let's do it. All right. For the cold open, President Biden is begging you to stop seeing Spider-Man. So, Steve, what'd you think of the first cold open of 2022?
I thought it was great. You can't deny the logic there. You see
Can't.
Spider-Man, you get sick. You know, I actually dodged the bullet when I went to see it because, you know, there were warnings of potential exposures like the day before, the day after I saw it. That was back when they were still doing warnings. Like it's kind of
Right.
gotten out of hand now and we're all
Now it's just
inside.
if you go outside, that's the
Yeah.
warning.
But I thought it was great. And, you know, it's always funny to me when there's a motif or a line that, you know, a comedian returns to, gives it a little different spin and, you know, a little bit different energy each time. And every time he said, stop going to see Spider-Man, it just got funnier and funnier to me. So I was
Mhm.
having a lot of fun with this. I don't know if I agreed with some of the choices. Like the Biden verse, the whole multiverse thing is cool. But like for example, why put a voice modulator on Pete? Like I know it's to make it like sound futuristic and stuff, but I don't know if it was necessary. And you know, every time they use this thing, there's always like that mistaken overlap. So like
Mhm.
half of Live from New York at Saturday night became uh like an
War from
octave
New
lower.
York.
Yeah, Lord from New York City. So yeah, I don't know whose idea that was, but it wasn't my favorite part. But overall, I thought
Yeah.
it was great. I'm starting to like James Austin Johnson's Biden. I'm getting used to it now. It's very
Did you not
much
like it at first?
well, I've always
I
liked
can't
it.
remember.
I just didn't know what like, you know, what the button was, like, you know, what
Okay.
his whole concept was. And he, you know, I think it's basically just him leaning into the mumbliness of his delivery
Mhm.
because we don't really have like a Jim Carrey type of straight shooting, go get him, Joe Biden. This is a very more, much more
It's like the
quiet and somber.
senile.
Yes, it's
Mhm.
playing more into the senility of Joe
Yeah.
Biden. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's my favorite Joe Biden ever, but I think it's pretty serviceable to the show. I mean, we don't have to get into how great it is. He's like a first year player doing it. Yeah, it's just good stuff with a couple of nitpicky things for this cold open. That's where I'll land on.
Fair enough. It was a big win for me. It started out as a political cold open at a podium, which definitely didn't set it up to be a home run for
No,
me. But then they made it really fun because it wasn't trying to be like a sharp political commentary. It was just goofy pop culture stuff taken to an absolute extreme where like the Biden multiverse opens up. And like that's the stuff that I'm here for, in like the post-Trump political landscape. I think many of us are looking for stuff more like this, that it has commentary, it has topical political jokes, but it doesn't like leave you feeling a little bit sad because it's too true, you know?
right.
It's just silly classic comedy. It's like Biden, we're going to play our version of him is he's going to be loony, he's going to be goofy, and we're just going to like play around with it. We're not going to give you any heavy-handed commentary. And that was really refreshing. So
Yeah,
it was a big win for me just in that respect.
yeah. I also love Biden's handling of the journalists and, you know, just the way he refuses to answer questions and just follows it up with Omicron. Uh, that's all that matters. Yeah, that was a fun element to it. Just to slide that in.
All right. So a win on the cold open. Let's get into the monologue where Ariana and Kate dazzle with a medley of songs from West Side Story. And this was great fan service, right? I mean, you have a Broadway turned film star, you have Kate McKinnon. A lot of people love to see this, myself included. Like, I really liked this. Like, I'm like, oh, Kate singing, that's good for me. West Side Story, that's good for me. But I do wish it had been funny. Uh, they didn't really try to fit any jokes in there. When they started singing Tonight, I thought, oh, it's going to be like a song parody of Tonight about her night at SNL, right? Um, but then it didn't really do that. So like, while I enjoyed it because of the fan service that it was, it didn't feel like an SNL monologue. So it was an interesting choice. What did you make of it?
Yeah, not a usual monologue for sure. And I find it interesting to think about because like this isn't uh, like Kate and Ariana. You know, they're both basically like born to perform.
Mhm.
Uh, they obviously have different creative muscles, but here they are flexing them side by side. And it's simple, but I think it really works for a host like this who is newly come to the limelight. And like myself, who has not seen West Side Story, at least this new version that she's in. Um, yeah, even though I haven't seen it, like uh, I'm a big fan of West Side Story, so I know she was, going to be a song and dance person. We were going to get, a really grand entrance when she came out for a monologue, which we did. One of my favorite moments. Uh, but yeah, this I think was the best way to like show her chops and just prove to the audience who might not be familiar with her, she's the real deal when it comes to being a triple threat. She's got a great
Mhm.
personality. She can sing, she can dance, she can do it all. And on paper, it's it's a premise that has basically no humor in it at all. It's Kate and Ariana will sing together, and Kate will be funny while she does
Right.
it. And that's really all it is. And it's just riffing for Kate as a, I guess, co-pilot, co-driver. Uh, but it worked really well. Just it was super simple and just basically saying, Kate, go be funny next to Ariana, so
Right.
we could get through a monologue with her. I don't know if she needed such training wheels though, because she's a delight this whole show. So
Right.
yeah, it's interesting that they went with something like this that seems so handholdy.
Yeah, like the moment of the monologue for me was when she like slipped up and said 2020 instead of 2022 and like immediately like just sort of laughed and then like corrected herself. And then I think there was another kind of slip up later. And I was like, "Oh, she's really charming, has great energy and is able to just like kind of laugh these things off and like get back in, Like she
Yeah,
seemed like a really true performer." So like those were the moments that gave me all of the confidence I needed, to go along.
sure.
Uh Side note, you've not seen West Side Story, but you've seen Hamilton, right?
Oh, I've seen Hamilton. Yes.
She's in Hamilton as well.
Okay.
She's one of the, ensemble members, and
Oh,
she, like, plays the bullet that goes across the stage.
oh, that's her.
She's that person.
I love
Mhm.
her work. She was a great bullet. One of the
Great
best
bullet.
bullet performances by a human being
Yep,
I've ever seen. So
for sure.
now I see it. Yeah,
Yep. No, yeah, so the monologue is ultimately a win for, you know, uh, I think we had different reasons for why we liked it, but it definitely showed us that she's a good performer, and I was ready to get her in some sketches. You want to talk about those?
let's talk about some sketches.
Welcome to the NBA on TNT. Tonight, Sacramento is playing the Nets with a team mostly made up of support staff and fans. I loved this so much. It's so silly. And it's such a good time. Like, once we got to the actual game of the sketch. So, I love the idea of the whole team's out for COVID. They're replaced with a bunch of amateurs, and we're checking in at halftime of this game. It's not after the game. We're checking in. That's just like such fertile territory. And I think they found a million great things to do with it. The stats with the visual gags on those were great. The interviews, they interviewed players, they interviewed coaches, all really good stuff. The nitpickiest thing that I can say is that I don't know that we needed the Yao stuff. It felt a little distracting because like there was a lot of setup around why he was there and like seeing what that impression was, and then it kicked into the gear of like, oh, by the way, Sacramento has a bunch of amateurs playing. Um, so like it's not a big thing because I really enjoyed that impression. Like I was still laughing. Uh, but the sketch ultimately was like 6 minutes long. So in my brain, I'm just wondering like, oh, if that were tightened up and more focused, like could we have seen another beat from this or like maybe another page and what was the Tyndall one that would have made it like make sense to
Yeah.
me?
Or
um,
you're saying you
uh,
could have missed all the Yao Ming stuff if they
yeah,
decided to chop that stuff?
just chop that. go straight into this is the NBA on TNT. The Sacramento Kings are out with COVID. And like, I think that I would have been so happy with that sketch. And I'm still happy with the sketch we got. Like, that's a super nitpicky note because the Yao impression was still fun. I just like the most fun thing for me was like the interviews and that stuff.
Right.
What did you think?
I enjoyed all these elements, including the Yao Ming thing. I feel like they could have done better with the suit. Like the way that they made him tall also made him look a little bit homeless. Like the clothing that was baggy on him. Like these are rich celeb athletes. They'd be well dressed, right?
Right.
But that's a weird complaint to have. I guess I don't have much of substance to complain about. It's a fun premise, like you said. Like I just mentioned how the monologue on paper is not a premise with any humor at all in it. And this one is fertile ground. Great turn of phrase you used. That yeah, it was just right for all the little elements they threw in to support that. And yeah, everybody was great. I thought all the exchanges between everybody were wonderful, and it was just a really fun sketch. I thought Ariana did great with it, and I was already sold on her from the monologue, but seeing her perform well in the sketch was also very comforting early on in the show. Yeah,
Yeah.
a win for me for a starting sketch.
Yeah. So, big win for me, win for you. A solid start to the night. Let's keep going to the sketch that takes us to the dark, seedy side of Family Matters. And Steve, was dramatic Urkel a hit for you?
Yeah, it's very similar to other pieces they've made, like Oscar the Grouch, things like this, just taking something from our childhood and making it grittier. And good timing, I suppose, with the dropping of Bel Air. Still haven't seen the trailer for it, so just those couple of clips before the trailer started.
You gotta watch that because it's like a sketch parody on
Is
its
it?
own. Like they could have just played that and I would have been like, wow, what a funny sketch.
Yeah, all I've seen is what they included in that sketch itself, but I will watch it. Yeah, this was fun, and a really fun part was before the reveal, uh, wondering who it was going to be because we all knew it was going to be someone we recognized, and I found a lot of excitement in waiting to see who it was they were going to parody, and then it ended up being Urkel, and it was pretty great.
Yeah, I liked this a lot. From the start, I was already on board with the Fresh Prince jokes. Like I said, like that, the trailer for that show reads like a parody sketch anyway. Like there's literally the scene, in the opening of the Fresh Prince where like the basketball hits the gangsters. There's like that scene, but like dramatic.
Right.
You're just like, no, we can't do this. Like that is a parody. So I was immediately on board. And I'm actually sad that that trailer exists because I would have loved to see SNL's take on like dramatic Fresh Prince. So like I wish Will Smith wasn't doing that so that I could have seen that. Because I am ultimately more familiar with the Fresh Prince than Family Matters. Like I've seen Family Matters, but I don't remember a ton about it.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I was on board with this. I loved the Grouch sketch, a few years ago. And this is definitely in the same vein. I don't know that it reached the highs of that one, but I also don't know that that's a fair comparison because that one was crazy. It was so
It's
unexpected. I was
particularly
also
a high. Yeah.
right. I was also in the audience for that episode, so like that already also like makes it have a special place in my heart. But this had a ton of great moments. There's nothing I can complain about other than just like Family Matters wasn't like a big show for me that I immediately was like, oh yes, all these details I'm remembering from the show. Like there wasn't a ton of those things for me. But I think as far as just like the writing and the directing goes, this was A plus, like knocked it out of the park. So yeah, got a lot of mileage out of that Urkel. My favorite part was definitely like the holding the gun, like, should I do that?
For sure.
You know,
And there's quite a cringeworthy arm break that made me
Oh,
wince
yeah.
because it was looked pretty real. I was
Mhm.
pretty impressed by that special effect.
All right. So, big win on Urkel. Give us more dark, dramatic takes on 90s sitcoms, please. Let's keep going to the formal emporium where Donovan will not and cannot seduce your daughter. And that's the Lakadza promise. Yeah, this this was fabulous. It when it started off, it felt I was immediately like, oh, okay, seems like a classic like Kate and 80 sketch written by Dresden and Gates. But obviously it's not Kate and 80. Obviously I know that Anna Dresden didn't write it. Um, so I was intrigued to like as it started kind of figure out what's happening here, you know?
Mhm.
But then it took this twist that really freshened the format with like it wasn't them just like selling like crappy prom experiences, like they have this Donovan character, right? Um, so apparently it was written by the Please Don't Destroy guys, actually. And just like as an aside, they are killing it. Like their actual pre-tapes are great, but the live fare that they've been writing is to
Yeah.
die for. Like they did like this, they've done a lot, but like off the top of my head, like the two that stand out are this and like the Kim Kardashian lottery sketch. Um, and just really showing that they can knock it out of the park across the whole episode and not
Mhm.
just have like their own little corner of it, you know?
They
And
also
that's been
helped with
so cool to see.
repackaging the Angelo character, did they not?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm Uh, so yeah, please don't destroy guys are really killing it. And like, as much as people maybe said they were like a nepotism hire, I think they've definitely proven they've earned their spot.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, But as for this actual sketch, to get off my soapbox, this is so funny and has such a unique game. I loved all the great details that they threw in about Donovan. Like he's a lazy wiper. He has a big computer. He just really likes that one song, Get Low. Just like all great details. And Andrew was fabulous, just like standing there pigeon toed and stuff. So big win. Steve, was it a win for you?
Yeah, for sure. The whole sketch, like, I feel like if you touched it, you just feel sticky afterwards.
Uh-huh.
It was just, very, very icky feeling around all of this. And, that's for great
Whatever was on
writing.
his lips felt contagious.
Yeah. My God. Like, what was that? Come on. That's a whole other let's just start another podcast to talk about those lips. I think it merits it. Uh Something I noticed about this is I realized that a lot of Sarah's stuff is done monologuing to the camera. Like she spends a lot of time peering at me through the fourth wall on my television, telling me
Mhm.
things. And it's, yeah, it makes sense where she comes from, like doing a lot of solo stuff on YouTube. She's used to making content where she's directly addressing the camera. I notice it's something that she goes to, and yeah, not necessarily a bad thing, and maybe not even worth mentioning, but it's an observation I had.
Yeah, I
uh,
think that that definitely seems to be her strong suit. Like that's where she's most comfortable and can deliver things really well that way.
yeah, for sure. As for the whole Donovan thing, this is a character that if you heard about, you'd say, well, of course, this is for Andrew Dismukes to play. This is just
Poor guy.
who else could play this but him? And yeah, made me appreciate the niche that he has on this show. And that's how you'll end up, in a lot of people's sketches is
Mhm.
having this very approachable quality that allows you to fill so many uh, little seats in sketches.
Yeah.
Very similar to Keenan reacting and how that gets him into sketches just to give a look, right? That's pretty good job security.
Right.
So I'm happy to see that for him, and
Yeah.
very much looking forward to even more weird characters that only Andrew could play.
And it's really interesting. Like 4 or 5 years ago, this could easily, like I said, it felt like something Kate and 80 could have done. You could have seen maybe Kyle in that spot. Uh, but it's nice to see kind of the new guard coming in to do this. We got Dismukes in there. We've got Sarah. Pete's sort of in the middle. Then, the girls, it was Heidi, Melissa, and the host, Um, so like that was really nice to see. Like it felt very new SNL in that sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's a big win. Let's keep going. To Mayor Eric Adams reminds us all that he's from New York, bitch. Steve, I realize of the two of us, you might be less familiar with Eric Adams, but what'd you think of this?
Yeah, second sketch in a row that's very, very New York. Yeah, I'm wondering how much. I'm sure there's an exaggeration there because I've read about the guy, but I haven't really seen much footage of him or any video really. So I'm not sure how
I mean,
much
I'm
of
not
this
watching like
swagger.
press conferences every day, but
Yeah, no, I don't know how this actual person acts or behaves. So it's hard to say for me what he's what here is the exaggeration and what is truly swagger that he swags
right.
IRL. But yeah, as a fun characterization of a political figure, I think this was entertaining for people like me who might not be as familiar with this new New York mayor. New New York mayor. Yeah, try saying that a couple of times. Yeah, and it was great. It was a great little showcase for Ariana to show some sass. Uh, she she was really great, and yeah, gave me some of the best lines here. This is not the C train. uh, yeah, love that miming from Chris Red there. Thank you for bringing that up. Uh, that was yeah, it's probably something you should be telling me about more so than me talking. So yeah, I'll shut up and let's hear more about this mayor of yours.
I mean, like I said, I haven't like watched a bunch of press conferences or anything, but like his big like campaign things, like I'm from New York, I used to be a cop. You're like that. Those are like the two beats that he insisted upon hammering home, uh, and those were like the two things that I had the most fun with in this sketch. Like I think, as far as building a personality for this man as a sketch character, this was amazing. Like, because like you can tell like Eric Adams, he does fancy himself quite a lot. Like he thinks he's really cool. So like to pull that and take it to this extreme and then throw in just a million catchphrases is so great. I really, really liked this take on Eric Adams. I think, I'm always pleased when they do New York centric stuff because, it's the home team sketch. I get to like get it and other people don't. And so, like, I liked this. It was a great vehicle for Chris. I think Chris did a great job. The thing that held me back was, I was like, do we need two political podium sketches in one show? So like, I feel like this could have landed for me a little better on a week where the cold open was something different, because like we got to this, it's getting late. We're getting a musical guest time, and I'm like, oh, we have like another political sketch. That kind of took me aback a little bit, and then I think there were a few pacing issues. So like there was a really really strong start showing us who the character of Eric Adams is. That was great. And then there was like a little bit of a lag in the middle. And then at the end, he gets into like, I've been a police officer for 97 years. I've been a police officer for 200 years. And it really found its footing again. So I think this had so many great moments and it's good. I'm excited to see more of their Eric Adams, like their take on Eric Adams. But like this one for me was a little uneven and just too similar to the cold open for me
Yeah.
to immediately jump on board with,
And if I were to sum it up, I would call this characterization charming LeVar Ball. That may be oversimplified.
Somewhat competent, like can form a sentence, LeVar Ball.
Yeah. Like he still
Never
tends to
lost.
exaggerate. No, never lost.
So, yeah, a New York sketch that has some stuff going for it. Let's talk about these musical performances. Bleachers performs How Dare You Want More and Chinatown. I really like Bleachers. I don't know about you. Are you a
Oh, yeah.
Bleachers fan?
I'm a Bleachers
Okay.
fan. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, like the frontman, Jack Antonoff, he produces a ton of Taylor Swift stuff. So that's sort of my route to Bleachers. I was really excited when whoever that Roddy Ricch guy is got replaced. I'm not excited that his team has COVID, but I was really excited that it was Bleachers, and I really liked this. The first song. I haven't listened to the new album because I'm bad at listening to new music when it comes out, but it was really interesting because that first song was usually the Bleachers has like a very like the Smiths vibe, I would say.
Yeah.
And that one was like very like Springsteen vibes. So I was
Yeah.
a little like, wait, where's the Bleachers I know? But then they came out in the second song, and that was the Bleachers I know. And I liked both songs a whole lot. And interestingly, the second song actually features Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
So Jack was having the time of his life. So I was having the time of my life watching him have a great time. And I like I said, I like Bleachers, so there wasn't a way this was really gonna miss for me. What'd you think of it?
Yeah. Like I said, I love the Bleachers, and I feel spoiled for saying I kind of feel robbed we didn't get a Bruce Springsteen cameo. Like, my
Yeah.
hopes were up for it, and I know these guys don't owe me anything, and I know COVID's on the go.
Right.
So they have a million
We
excuses.
can't give Bruce COVID.
Yes. But it was great. And it's not like, let's be honest, as great as Bruce is, he's not an integral part of the song. Pretty sure he just
Right.
sings backup, right? He doesn't even take a verse.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, but it's great. And you're right that this is a bit different because older Bleachers makes me want to dance in my kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And this one kind of makes me want to air guitar more. And
Right.
yeah, I'm just loving the saxophone on some of these tracks though. That's probably
And the sax battle, that was fun.
the sax battle in the performance was amazing. And that was probably the headline moment of the musical act for sure. But I really liked it. And I haven't seen him. I've always listened to the recorded music, and I didn't know if he always dressed so much like Bruce with the white t-shirt, or if this is just like, hey, Jersey. I'm assuming this is like a new thing.
I mean, I feel like he wears, he's just like hipster to the max.
I'm gonna have to go
So,
back and look at other performances, see how he
yeah,
dressed.
he wears that leather jacket a lot.
Right on. He had everything but the bandana, basically.
Right.
And then you don't bring out Bruce Springsteen. It's funny. But yeah, I as a Bleachers fan, I was kind of excited by the news that he was going to be coming on and doing this.
Mm-hmm. All right. So big win for Bleachers. Happy to see Jack Antonoff having such a good time. Let's talk about Weekend Update. For their lead-in, Jost and Shay discuss the Voting Rights Act. Steve, was Update a win this week?
Update was it was winning for sure. And there was definitely a lot of update. We only had, I think, one actual guest on on the segment, so it was all jokes, and they were all great. I'm definitely gonna. I might as well just mention the eye patch jokes now because, yeah, that's probably going to be the meat of what I got to say. That was all great, and it just goes to show like how mad we are at people like this guy, because you think back to the trouble that Pete Davidson got into for making fun of a guy with eye patch, a Republican, not even like someone who is super popular with like the left leaning audience of SNL. And like, even after all the trouble they had, they still were comfortable making these eye patch jokes about this guy because they were like, no one's going to get mad about us doing that. So it goes to show how little we think of people, or how mad we are at people who were involved with this whole riot. Yeah, but that's all I got to say. Otherwise, it was a fun, serviceable weekend update, and it was it was nice to have more breathing room for all the jokes.
Yeah. Hopefully they're not apologizing to Eye Patch Man next week.
Yeah,
Surely to God they won't.
I don't know that'll
But yeah,
go
this
over. They'd get
yeah,
canceled
this
for
was
apologizing.
right. Uh, they should do a joke apology. They
That
can't
would be
not.
funny, actually.
For us. That one's for us. But no, this was a really strong outing of Update. I thought the energy was good. Every joke landed. There wasn't anything that fell flat for me, and there were a few that were just such great home runs. Um, Colin's very first joke was it hit on like Jefferson Davis of the Confederacy and then the Confederate statues into the Voting Rights Act into Biden being like an acquired taste. Like it was 5 punchlines in one setup and it was just so expertly crafted and such a great like the flow of it everything was written so well. And then it just kept going from there. Like that was the first joke. It was brilliant, written amazingly, and then the rest of Update was just such smooth sailing. So this was a pretty high up there as far as the whole season goes. I thought this was definitely one of the best we've seen.
Yeah, for sure. And I've always said that Jose and Shay, they've always done well with the more long form bits that are made up
Mm-hmm.
by series of jokes. That's always
Yep,
been something that makes me love this pairing. So yeah,
that's a really good point. Mm-hmm.
yeah, for sure, it is a really good point. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's talk about this feature where Rocco is here to discuss his ongoing feud with Elmo.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
Elmo was in this, right?
Elmo was in this. Did you follow the Elmo Rocco drama?
SNL taught me about it. So
Okay.
once I've done my research after the fact.
What'd you think of it?
Well, I feel bad for Elmo. I mean, he's clearly being emotionally abused, but it's hilarious because this whole bit that they did on Weekend Update, it plays like how would you imagine it if someone were explaining this concept to you? It's like, oh yeah, Elmo keeps getting frustrated by everybody anthropomorphizing a rock. Uh, this is basically just taking that, what's funny about that, and then kicking it up on steroids.
Mm-hmm.
And with all the great jokes that they've crafted with it and Chloe's performance, this was pretty successful, I'd say. I have some things to say about the costume, but maybe I should save that because I want to hear what your
Okay.
thoughts are.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. I really liked this. I've loved the Elmo drama. My favorite clip is the one where Zoe comes in and says, "Sorry, I'm late. Rocco had to go potty," and Elmo just goes, "What?" Oh, it's so funny. I loved this, from the get-go. This was a big win. My face just turned so red because I was trying so hard not to laugh as hard as I wanted to. Um, it's like Elmo slowly going crazy over this rock has so much mileage. And I think they capitalized on most of it. Chloe was great. Giving Rocco a chair and her getting to go off about how he does not need a chair. That's great. The cookie obviously is wonderful. Rocco's family ultimately being there, brilliant. The only thing, the only complaint, and like all of my notes tonight are really like like everything was good. Like these are all like kind of really minor things. Like I wish this had like one more gear to it, to where like Elmo just really goes on this unhinged rant about freaking Rocco. And then like that drives us to that finale where she kills him and then reveals his family's there. I think like that could have felt just a little more heightened, like if we had worked up to that point a little more. So this was really, really good and I loved it. I just feel like they maybe rushed it a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh but a big win. I'm interested to know your costuming notes now.
Costuming notes. Well, something I've always felt about the decision to put the character's face on top of your head and exposing the human performer's face to do the emoting and stuff. So essentially, you have two faces like you're Janice or something. Uh, and it, it always freaks me out because it looks like it's just a person wearing the skin, like somebody like
She
killed
murdered
and
and skinned
gutted.
Elmo.
Yeah, somebody gutted Elmo and then wore him like some kind of Ed Gein skin suit. Uh, it 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 just it unsettles me.
Fair
But
enough.
I got over it because it was funny enough. And I remember thinking, wow, uh, talk about suffering from success because Chloe is so talented and is so good at these impressions that I see her do a pitch perfect Elmo impression. And I go, well, of course she can. Like
Right?
she's so good that I'm no longer surprised when she throws something new at me. And I guess I'm getting
Mhm.
spoiled by her talent because I should be going, holy crap, that's amazing. But I'm just saying, well, yeah, it's Chloe. She's
Right.
really good at these.
Of course she can. Right.
But I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall to see, what they experimented with before they decided on that. Like, did they try to paint her face or like
Mhm.
put a nose on her and make her look like Elmo? And maybe that was even more nightmare fuel than wearing a skin
That
suit
would
of
that would
Elmo.
have entered John's Baby Yoda territory.
Yeah, maybe.
I did see she posted something where it was just a red cap. Like her face wasn't painted or anything, but it didn't have the face up there. So I don't know if they just hadn't sewn it on or maybe that was a version they tried, but
Yeah.
I
No,
don't know.
I'm curious.
All right. So update, high notes on update. Let's get into the back half of the show. The new governess for the Von Trapp's neighbor seems a bit off. Steve, was this a win?
You know what? This was funny. I kind of groaned and rolled my eyes because I feel like Sound of Music has been done to death
Mhm.
on modern SNL. But it makes sense. Like we have a Broadway performer host. You're going
Right.
to see some musicals covered. So
Mhm.
I shouldn't be complaining. And it proved itself to be pretty funny. I thought it was uh interesting to like just put the lyrics of that song under the microscope and yeah, law following. So that is kind of lazy writing.
It is.
Yeah, and I think it was just a series of really hilarious creative lines uh for the music, and all those hilarious Cockney accents were really fun. I don't know if you'd call it
For the
Cockney.
Austrian family.
Yeah, I'm like these guys sound very German right now. But yeah, they it seems like they had like a game amongst themselves to to ham it up with the accent as much as
Mhm.
possible. Uh, one of those trying to get each other to break things, I guess. But it
Yeah.
was a lot of fun, and yeah, it had an interesting ending. I don't know where Arby's comes in with it all, but I guess they just decide, frig it, we got to end this somehow. Have Keenan come in and sing about French fries.
Keen, what'd you have for lunch today?
Great, sing it.
uh yeah, this they definitely all seemed to be having a great time with it. Like you could tell like there was one little interaction between Andrew and Bowen where Andrew said something like, "She hasn't spoken in years." And Bowen's like, "Not since the gruesome death of our mother." And like you could tell just like the way that they said it and looked at each other that they had like really gotten a laugh out of that earlier this week, you know?
Yeah.
Um so I had a good time with this. I think the take of like an unhinged version of Maria from The Sound of Music is so funny. Her lyrics were consistently funny. I love that she was immediately unhinged. Like she comes in and it's like, no, the hills they are alive. There was no easing into it. She was immediately clearly off. So yeah, this was like a good concept, and like you said, I ultimately did enjoy it. When it started, I was a little bit like, "Oh, okay." Like it's gonna be like this musical thing, but like you said, of course it is. So like I was game to go along with it. Um, and yet not to just repeat everything you said, but the ending was very strange. Like the dad coming in to sing about fast food did not seem like the most heightened place or the most in line with the game place for this to end up. So that made me leave this sketch on a little bit of a down note. But if I just really look at it, I did have a good time with finding, oh, what are they going to say for this one this time? That was a good time. So a little middle of the road, but I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to when it started. All right. So interesting notes on that one. Let's keep going to the Cornell University presentation on new research regarding Sappho of Lesbos. This was good. I love the setup of this. I like some good, funny, like lesbian observations. I think that's great. Even if some of these jokes did feel like a little dated, like they're things we've heard before. Like, oh yes, they're gonna move in together. Like, we know that's the trope. They sprinkled in enough new stuff there that like it was still fun. Like they threw in like the Nalgene bottle, like the vase with Gillian Anderson on it. So there was enough new stuff sprinkled in here and like enough details about like, yes, we did used to be married, stuff there that got some good giggles. So this isn't like the top of the night for me, but it is fun enough. I just if it were a little more varied and then this is almost in the 10-1 slot. It didn't quite go to crazy town. So like if it had gotten a little zanier at the end, I think it would have been a bigger win for me. But as it is, it was still a very solid sketch.
Yeah.
Yeah, what'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is your average lesbians do be like that sketch with a ancient Greek hat on. Uh, that's what you were saying, basically. Uh, this is, I guess, tried, tested, true comedy when it comes
Right.
to some of these jokes, and yeah, for that reason, maybe it feels a bit dated. Uh, I mean, there's other things too that kind of make me scratch my head. Like, I felt like there was no developed tension in the performance. Like, it almost made me confused if I was understanding the relationship between them because they were,
Mhm.
uh, I guess, a little too polished and professional about it all, and there was really no hint of any conflict between them.
Mhm.
It was purely just exposed in the dialogue, and yeah, it seemed like a disconnect. I don't know what that would be, but despite all that, Ariana and Kate seem to have very unique chemistry together, and it was
Yeah.
still enjoyable to watch just for them to have another sketch. You know, the monologue was also fun for the same reasons. Yeah, but I don't know. This wasn't my favorite sketch of the night. It didn't really go anywhere, and I
Yeah.
mean, it gave me a couple of chuckles, and I guess I'm not at a net
Yeah.
zero, so sure,
Right.
why not?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The biggest laugh for me was why don't gay guys invite us to their things? Never mind, don't answer
Don't ask.
that.
The don't ask was my favorite part too.
Right.
Yes, good
All right,
taste.
so more middle of the road there. Let's talk about the 10-1. That at the end of the day, at the end of the night, the employees of the Texarkana Longhorn Steakhouse in Texas are all family at the end of the day. Um, so Steve, at the end of the day, at the end of the night, what'd you make of this?
Oh, you're just bringing back all that trauma. I'm reliving it now, where I truly thought I was having a stroke. Yeah, this sketch really turned it up as it went on, and I gotta hand it to him for just letting it go and letting loose with it. Because it was, I mean, let's face it wasn't your average sketch to begin with. It was a hilarious concept, feels oddly specific. Like, I've worked in restaurants, and I couldn't relate to much of it. Like, you always have some guy be like, she is the boss at the end of the day. But this is some weird subculture that I don't know. Maybe I should be
This is like
grateful I've never been a part of.
weird Texarkana Cajun something. I don't know.
Yeah. Uh, uh, but whatever. It was a great I don't know what you would call it, syllabic satiation or something. And
Yeah.
and yeah, it was once they got to Alex's bit, and
Mhm.
he goes on about the end of the day, end of the night. That's when it really started to really mess with my head. Uh, but yeah, I was watching it thinking, this would be hilarious if they like started the show with this. They never would, and for good reason. But it would be hilarious just to see the reaction of people who like fall asleep halfway through the show. Usually,
Mhm.
those people watching and being like, "Jesus, what happened to this show?"
That young man that played Biden has crazy hair now.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as 10-to-1 sketches go, this is exactly what I want to see for that time slot. Just get experimental and go for laughs that you don't know you'll get because you're just doing
Yeah.
something so new and crazy. You just got to see if it works.
Yeah, this was definitely out of left field. Definitely like 10-to-1 territory. I love it and I hate it. Like I don't I do not get the joke. I do not know what lure is. I don't know what the idea behind this is. Like I cannot offer you anything. But I did just get a lot of mileage out of Alex Moffat's, like, unintelligible rant. Like you said, when we got to that point, I was like, "Alright, fine. It's funny accents saying nonsense. Okay, we'll laugh about it." Like, like, is it smart, brilliant writing? No. Is it at some point fun enough? Yes. Like, you repeat something enough times and it does become funny. Um, I loved the joke about I will you will no longer work at the Texarkana Texas Longhorn Steakhouse in Texas. I will transfer you to the Texarkana Longhorn Steakhouse in Arkansas. That is so funny. Um, but yeah, I have no idea what I've watched, but I do know that that is endlessly quotable. Just like I'm all out of cash, right? Like, oh man, I'm all out of cash tonight.
Yeah,
I'll be saying that a lot. But I do not know what the sketch was. So yeah, it's I don't even know. Like I loved it. I didn't like it at the same time. It was a wild ride.
it's hilarious because it's a great way to describe it. Didn't understand it, but at the end of the day, I
But
was laughing.
today.
Uh, yeah, it rings true. Oh, the lure thing. I
Mhm.
want to give props to Heidi because she gave that line with such confidence. She owned it so much. I thought lure was a real thing. I was like, oh, I'm learning some new lingo now. And then I learned later that it's not a thing. But yeah,
That character felt so very Heidi. Like that is her sense of humor. Just come
yes,
in with like a little bit funny accent and say something that doesn't make any sense and walk away. Like
yeah.
that is
It's
perfect for it.
very much a Heidi character because you look at it and say
Mhm.
that could almost be a real person.
Right.
Like it's this the line between this comedic version and it's something from reality is like razor thin.
All right. So we've come to the end of the show,
It's the end of the
and
show, at the end of the night.
it's time to talk about the overall ratings. So what was the moment of the night?
With the moment of the night, at the end of the night, after all the moments had been nighted, uh, I got two moments. Okay, I'm going to give it to Chris Red's holding the bar for the C train. It was
That
great.
is very specific.
Uh, well, I loved it. You're giving the podium to your assistant or whatever. How do you back them up?
Yeah.
It's their lines, and I thought that was a great little peppering on top. I like
Oh,
to think it was a
okay.
Chris Red decision, something in the moment. Maybe not in the moment, but it feels like that's something that
Something
came
he
to him.
tried in a blocking rehearsal and worked. Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked it. My other my other one was Keenan's line of "I'm something of a chanteuse," uh, but I'm going with the C train.
Fair enough. I'm torn between in the Urkel sketch when we finally got the "Did I do that?" And it was just so crazy and dark, and then also just Andrew Dismuke's lips in
Oh
the
God,
Legazza sketch. Um, I think I've got to go with that slow zoom into those crusty
Oh
lips.
yeah.
That was
Like it's
oh,
making
that
me
was
want to clean
great.
my own just thinking
Mhm.
of them.
And then another underrated moment, this is not my moment of the night, is as they turn him around, he goes, "Oh, don't spin me around."
No, stop.
But yeah, moment of the night is the zoom into those crusty, gross lips.
Yes.
Uh, that was a big win. What is your best sketch?
Best sketch. I think the best sketch is where your moment came from. Yeah, I'm going to go with the prom dresses.
La Cazzo Promise.
La Cazzo Promise. That was a lot of fun, and it's nice to see Sarah, with a very New York show, and her humor is very New York, if you will, if not super alt. It's definitely a big part of her whole persona. So having a New York host would definitely lend itself to opportunities for her. And
Mhm.
yeah, this was a great showcase of what she does, and you definitely see the Sarah squirm coming out of it. Like it's definitely reined back for NBC and all that, but
Right.
I was definitely excited for stuff like this when I heard she got hired because I knew she was gonna let things seep through just like the uh the back pants,
Sweat from his butt.
the backside of Donovan's pants. If you need a visual analogy. Yeah, so yeah, that's my sketch of the night for sure.
I'm right there with you. I think that was the most consistent top to bottom great sketch that we got. And just had so many great details and so many great moments within that sketch. Huge win. That's my best sketch as well. Let's talk MVP. Who's your MVP?
Kate, let's give it to Kate. I think Kate deserves it. I thought Ariana Debose was a great, first time host, and she was lovely. And I think she got a little bit of an extra boost with the Kate support. Uh,
Mhm.
she Kate was really there to, uh, I guess, show her the reins, and you felt like uh, she had Ariana under her wing, and I
Mhm.
thought some fun stuff came out of it. I could definitely see a friendship there, and if that was totally manufactured, well, that's a talent too. To appear to have such good chemistry. Uh, but yeah, Kate, I think deserves it for all the fun she had. You know, uh,
Fair enough.
maybe maybe the Lesbos sketch wasn't my favorite, but those two did make it fun at the very least.
Right. Yeah. Kate's a solid. Kate's always a solid pick, right?
Yeah,
I'm gonna go Dismukes. I think he had a really great night. I think he really owned being Donovan in a way that really only he could. Like he just had that perfectly wooden stance with the pigeon toes and just and then was willing to have that close up of his mouth. And like I said, like he just delivered all the little lines in that sketch so perfectly. And then, he was sprinkled in a few other places. He got beaten up in the Urkel sketch.
yeah.
He did do a great job at the end of the day. Um, so I don't know. I think Dismukes had a really strong night. And I was happy with everything he was in. I thought he really did a great job. So
Oh, that's such a
Andrew
good pick.
Dismukes.
Yeah, this Mukes for
Thank you. I
sure.
mulled over it a lot.
He definitely earned it just for playing Donovan, just for having to go
Mhm.
through that. I think he deserves some sort of recognition.
Just
So
the public humiliation.
I thank you for that service.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about the big one. On a scale of classic, great, decent, weak, or train wreck, how would you rate this episode?
Uh, I'm gonna go with decent, and I'm gonna be a little bit more lenient than I normally would be, just because I know that this is a very uh, localized, kind of New York centric show. So I'm a bit out of the loop on some of the content, but with all the fun I did have, you know, with that in mind, I think it does deserve a decent. I had my
Okay.
my you know had my criticisms about some sketches. It wasn't some of the greatest stuff that SNL has ever made, but it was definitely a serviceable show. And yeah, if Ariana wasn't as charming and as fun of a host as she was, maybe I'd be telling you something different. So I can say this lovely lady in her first time has at least bumped me into a decent from her likability. So I wouldn't mind seeing her on the show again.
Fair enough. She's queuing herself up to win an Oscar, so maybe hopefully she has a great long career ahead of her, and we will see that.
Yes. And I hope she keeps up with the singing and the dancing.
Sure she will. I'm tempted to give this a great because there was nothing that I just straight up didn't like. There was no real losers.
No real losers.
But also there were so many sketches where I was like, "Oh, I really loved this, but blah blah blah." There were only a couple that I really really loved, and then a lot of stuff that I was like, "Yeah, this was good." Like I laughed at this, but it's not. A lot of it's not stuff that I'm like really keen to rewatch. It's not a ton of stuff that I'm instantly sharing with my friends. There's like a few things that were really great, and a lot of stuff that just felt sort of middle of the road. So I think that makes it a decent, right? So we're in agreement once again. It was a good episode. I really enjoyed it. Like at the end, when it ended, I felt good about it. I wasn't like, oh, oof, that was bad. Which sometimes happens. But at the end of the day, a lot of it just had a but to me. Like, oh, I wish they would have done that thing instead. And that would have really knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
So a decent episode, but we're happy they're back, right? Safe and sound in 30 Rock. Live studio audience. I didn't think it was going to happen. It happened. A good show, good host, great musical guest, and great to see you, Steve. I can't wait to play some mini golf later.
Yes, let's have a game of golf. We'll do that and settle this one-on-one once and for all.
once and for all, put our bitter rivalry to the test.
Yes.
And that is a wrap. Thanks to Steve Finn, and thanks as well to our most generous patrons, Sam Bowers, Neil Weinstein, Justin Gardner, Grace Kogan, and Brian Clark. If you're enjoying our show, please subscribe on YouTube or wherever better podcasts can be found. Your subscription helps us grow, and your support is greatly appreciated. We'll be back in 1 week when SNL returns with host Will Forte and musical guest Maneskin. But until then, this has been episode number 151 of the Saturday Night Live Afterparty podcast. I'm Catherine Coleman. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.